Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins. Ugh! I love this video, and oh my god, I love books so much. The first line of a new book sets the entire tone. It can give you so much information about the writing style, about the new character, about the new setting, about how sarcastic the author's going to be, how lyrical they want to be. In the first line, it's all there. When I open up a book, I have such high expectations for that first line. And so I thought it would be so fun today to go through my shelves, pick out 11 random, it ended up being 11, I didn't mean for it to be, 11 random classics, go through them and tier rank them based on their first lines. So we're gonna go over to my desk, over to my computer, so that I can use the little tier ranking website. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Book of the Month is an awesome online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new, emerging, and popular authors and to help readers discover books that they love. The way that it works is that every month their team picks through all of the books that are being published, chooses out 5 really interesting reads and presents them to you. You then get to pick one of those reads. If you don't like the picks that month, or for some reason you don't want to participate that month, you can skip a month with no charge. But if you use my code, Ariel, you get one of those 5 books for $9.99. That's right, your first book, $9.99 if you use my code. July's books are Sisters in Arms by Kaya Alderson, Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, The People We Keep by Allison Larkin, 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, and We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang. Thanks so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Let's dive into the first line. All right, we're at the desk. I actually remembered another book I wanted to get, so we're up to 12. I am so looking forward to this. This is going to be so much fun. I love first lines, and I love it when it's epic. So, okay, wait, before, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to explain to you my tiering. We're essentially going from really good to not very good, but I tweaked it a little bit, because what does it mean for me, this very subjective mission for me for it to be in the top tier? Iconic, okay? Iconic. So, like, not only is it really brilliant, it shows you about the characters, but you want to, like, put it on a tattoo, or you want to quote it, or you can't get it out of your mind. Like, it feels iconic status. Right under that, classic. It's really good. This is still really, really, really good. A+. But it's not, it doesn't have that quotability or that, like, you don't want to memorize it. Right under that, at least it's informative. So maybe it's not powerful, maybe it's not punchy, but it is at least setting the tone. It's interesting enough that it propels you forward. Under that, off to a rough start. So this is for a book where, you know what, you're going to keep reading, but it's kind of despite the beginning. You're like, I'm going to keep going, but that was not good. That was not interesting. And then at the bottom we have DNF. You read the first line and you're like, okay, this is awful. I don't even want to read this book, which would be a complete shame and is why the first line in the first paragraph matters so much. It's the moment to pull everyone in. Okay, these books are not in any order. We're going to start with The Catcher in the Rye, which I loved as a book. I don't remember the first line though. All right, chapter 1. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it, if you want to know the truth. Have you heard a more Holden Caulfield thing in your entire life? Okay, this is difficult. Okay. I'm up for the challenge. This is difficult, but I think it's in the classic category. Let's pull him up into the classic, but let me see if I can convince myself that it should be in the iconic status, because I think this is top tier kind of stuff. I love it because it's so Holden Caulfield. You are instantly sunk into the sarcasm of this book, the audacity of this character. He feels a little aggressive doesn't he? A little abrasive, because he's like, yeah, okay, I get it. What you want is this, and I don't want to give that to you. And you're like, who are you? And how dare you say you don't want to tell your life story when literally you're writing a book about your life story? You can already tell how conflicted this character is. However, this is my reservation, because it's brilliant. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It sets up the sarcasm of the book and the tone of this character perfectly, but it doesn't feel quotable. I don't remember it. It's funny, like he's making fun of David Copperfield already, and you're like, so you literally think that your life is more romantic and iconic than this iconic character? Go on, Holden, go on. No, I don't remember it. There I was trying to quiz myself. Is this catchy? It doesn't feel catchy, and it doesn't feel like I want to put a poster of it or something. I feel like Lucy in Peanuts. Have you ever seen this quote on a bubblegum card? So it's gonna be in the classic category. Let's go on to this one. I'm so excited about this one. A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I have not read this book, so I can't make inferences from the first line, but here we go. Chapter 1, The Period. It was the best of times, it was the worst of it's already iconic. It's already iconic. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good and for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. It's iconic! Me and my dad are constantly shouting, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It sets off this tone of like, okay, this is going to be a book dealing with big ideas. It's going to be talking about life and death, the like big romantic notions of a human life. It sets it off there. We're like starting on Mount Olympus, you know what I mean? It doesn't tell me much about the characters. I don't really know anything about the setting, but it is so compelling that I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. And it feels a little Shakespearean, doesn't it? With it was the winter of despair instead of discontent. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10. Now the Bell Jar. Okay, this was a book I read for the first time last summer, and if I recall correctly, yes, I actually highlighted or underlined the first line. So here we go. Chapter 1, Sylvia Plath. It was a queer, sultry summer. The summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs, and I didn't know what I was doing in New York. God damn it. No hesitation. It's going to iconic. And in fact, I'm going to put it ahead of A Tale of Two Cities. It was... yikes. That's so powerful. I've learned so much in 23 words. 23 words. And I feel like I already know so much information. It was a queer, sultry summer. Okay, so it's summer, it's hot, it's strange. Sultry? Let's define sultry. So, like literally perfection. What a perfect word. Because for weather, it means hot and humid. So you're like, okay, it's overbearing, it's uncomfortable. But for a person, and it says especially a woman, attractive and passionate. So we're thinking about the character, we're thinking about this hot, oppressive summer. And then it goes into the summer they electrocuted the Rosenbergs. Who? What? And like, I remember looking this up at the time. This is something that I just don't know anything about because I was not alive in the 60s. They were two American citizens who were convicted of spying on behalf of the Soviet Union. Why are these characters already in the first line? But that's how she remembers this summer. That was that weird summer, the summer that those spies got electrocuted. There's so much violence already. It's brutal and it's hot, it's humid, and people are being electrocuted. And then we go on to, and I didn't know what I was doing in New York. you're like, okay, and so this character is in New York City and she doesn't even know what she's doing there. Oh, wah! Ah! If only we could all write like this. Miss Sylvia Plath. Wow. Okay, I don't think that one's gonna be beat. We'll see. Lolita. Come on, Lolita. What do you got? This is clearly one that I read for university. I think I read this 2 or 3 times. Skip the foreword. Oh, it's short. Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins. Oh! I love this video, and oh my god, I love books so much. This is the most disgusting... I hate it, and that's why it's so good. Lolita, so it starts with her name. The first word of the entire book is her name, which I think is phenomenally interesting, right? Because if you haven't read Lolita, it's about a pedophile, it's about an abuser who is obsessed with this young girl named Lolita, and he's actually pleading his case in front of a court, trying to convince them that what he did wasn't so bad. But it's about this sick obsession, and to have her name as the first thing you think about, Lolita. Of course. Light of my life. So he's trying to convince us that she is the spark of his life, the most important thing in his life. But then right after that, fire of my loins? Nah. It's going into iconic. It is iconic. And I'm going to put it in ahead of A Tale of Two Cities because A Tale of Two Cities is brilliant, but it was so long that I didn't even know how long it was. So that's going to go ahead of it. What if all of these are just classic or iconic? It would make sense. All right, The Time Machine. I think that this is an underrated classic, which doesn't really make sense because if it's a classic, it has survived the test of time. But I just feel like more people should check this boy out. It's really good. Chapter 1. Here we go. I don't remember this one. The time traveler, for so it will be convenient to speak of him, was expounding a recondite matter to us. Okay, we hit our first dud. The time traveler, for so it will be convenient to speak of him, was expounding a recondite matter to us. Recondite. I don't know that one. A little known or abstruse. Okay. You know what? This is boring. It's between off to a rough start, but it is informative. Like, the time traveler, that's what we're going to call this character, was telling us about something weird. So it's cool that it starts with the time traveler. It's cool. You see, that's a shame, because I literally just said to you all, this is an underrated book. And then it started like that. Okay. I'm going to put it in off to a rough start. I don't think that wanted... I'll keep going, but I'm not excited to keep going. Next up, we have The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I was excited to do this one because, it's young adult. So maybe it's going to be a different kind of a tone. Here we go. Chapter 1. When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only 2 things on my mind. Paul Newman and a ride home. Okay. I'm going to put this in informative because I don't love it. I'm not reading it like, oof, brilliant. But it is good. I do like it. And I do like, I mainly like I only had 2 things on my mind. Paul Newman and a ride home. You're like, all right, who is this guy? He's spending his time in a movie theater. He's watching movies. He's romanticizing life. He's thinking about that actor. And he also is trying to figure out a way home. It's like, it's the real and the unreal. The facade, the movies, Hollywood, and the practicalities. I need to get home. So, I liked it, but I didn't love it. Okay. Lord of the Flies. A classic in high school. William Golding. Okay. Chapter 1. Chapter 1, The Sound of the Shell. I don't remember how this one starts. The boy with fair hair lowered himself down the last few feet of rock and began to pick his way towards the lagoon. Nah, that's boring. I don't care about that. I'm going to put that off to a rough start because, Okay, yeah, the boy with fair hair, I don't really care that he has fair hair, lowered himself down on a rock towards the lagoon. Like, this book is literally so dramatic. There is so much drama in this book, and that did not set the tone at all. Their eyes were watching God, a book I've been meaning to read for ages, and I was so excited when I found this incredible cover of it. Okay, let's see. Chapter 1. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. Gosh, that was short. I was hoping for a bit more because I haven't read this one. So, in a way, I'm sort of like, what can this first line tell me? What can I expect about this novel? Other than everyone loves it, I don't really know much about the book. So I was hoping that first line would set the tone a bit more, or like give me a clue about the main character. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. I mean, it is interesting though, right? Like, I'm compelled the more I sit with it. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. Is that like a famous saying, or did she make that up? Okay, everything that I'm seeing on the internet is saying that it has to do with the book. So I think she thought up this metaphor, and it is a beautiful metaphor. And obviously, so many of you are thinking, well, keep reading Ariel, because it's really interesting in comparison to what she says about women as opposed to men. But no, because we're only judging this on the first line. This is not a first paragraph video, it's a first line. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. So you're thinking, like, when something is far away, when it's abstract, when you can't really make out the whole picture of it, it could be anything. My ship could be coming in today. Maybe this is finally my moment. But then obviously it's at bay. Okay, you know what? It's interesting. It's interesting, but I don't love it. It's a little too hazy. It's a little too abstract. Informative or classic? I'm gonna put it in informative because it is setting a mood. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're going off. Big things are happening, but I actually do want to keep reading though. So, okay. Next up, wrong pile, Anne of Green Gables. I needed to get a Canadian classic in here, and this is the Canadian classic. I guess The Handmaid's Tale as well. Anne, I love you, Anne. Okay, chapter 1. Mrs. Rachel Lynde is surprised. Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived just where the Avonlea main road dipped down into a little hollow fringed with alders and ladies' eardrops and traversed by a brook that had its source away back in the woods of the old Cuthbert place. It was reputed to be an intricate, headlong brook in its earlier course through those woods, with dark secrets of pool and cascade, but by the time it reached Lynn's Hollow, it was a quiet, well-conducted little stream, for not even a brook could run past Mrs. Rachel Lynde's door without due regard for decency and decorum. It probably was conscious that Mrs. Rachel was sitting at her window, keeping a sharp eye on everything that passed, from brooks and children up, and that if she noticed anything odd or out of place, she would never rest until she had ferreted out the whys and whereofs thereof. Okay, that was a whole paragraph, an entire paragraph, and it tells you so much about the character, and it already shows you, like, this is going to be a book about nature. We love nature. We're going to celebrate nature, but also we have this nosy character. It feels like the beginning of Harry Potter with Miss Petunia, this nosy character who's, like, not only investigating and making sure she knows everything about nature, and, like, the brook is a little bit different today, but she literally has that level of attention to everyone in town. So I really like it. It feels informative, but it doesn't feel iconic. Definitely not. And it doesn't feel particularly like, wow, that was a 10 out of 10. It feels clever though. Like, don't get me wrong. I haven't actually read one here that I don't like at all. Maybe not I didn't like the Lord of the Flies one. I'm gonna put this in informative. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in informative. All right. Pride and Prejudice. I had to have this one. Do I even need to flip to the page? I don't think I do, but I will. Chapter 1. It is a truth, no I don't. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Straight to iconic it goes. I was a little frustrated. I couldn't find my cover in an image to use for this. So I just picked a different Pride and Prejudice cover. But, like, let's break this down slightly because this is, like, definition iconic. It's so good. In fact, I want to move it to my second slot. I love this. It's so, so beautifully done. It is a truth universally acknowledged. Already we've got the sarcasm and Jane Austen is being so superfluous and ridiculous and over the top, which is so much of the characters here, and especially the first section here is with Mrs. Bennet, who is the definition of those things. That a single man in possession of a good fortune. Okay, again, we're learning a lot. We're like, okay, this book we know is about women, but it's talking about this single man who has a lot of money. So we know we're obsessed with finding a suitor, and he needs to be wealthy. Must be in want of a wife. So that desperation leaks in, and the sole pursuit. It's like the thesis statement. It's like you might know this about me. I love a thesis statement. But, like, this is the thesis statement of the entire book. We're looking for a husband. But at what cost? To what degree? What does a husband mean? What should he be? And to Mrs. Bennet, this is what he is. Brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. All right. Next up, On the Road. I have only read, where's my bookmark on this one? I'm only on page 53 of this book, so I haven't really read it. I've read like a fifth of it, so I don't really remember the first line. Part 1, Chapter 1. I first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. Ooh. I first met Dean not long after my wife and I split up. I'm going to put that in classic. I just feel like it has dropped me into such an interesting moment. Because, you know, it's one thing to be like, I met this character. But it's second thing to intentionally put that next to, I met this character right after this super bad thing happened. What mind space are you in? What headspace are you in? What are you thinking about? What is the fact that you just broke up with your wife going to change your entire feeling of, like, why this person matters to you? Are you feeling more reckless? We know this is about a road trip. Who is Dean? Why are you about to go on the road trip with Dean? It sort of does give you this, like, things are bad. I met this guy. We're about to do something dumb. A feeling that I really enjoy. All right, our last one for today. This has been so much fun. Our last one is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is like one of my big TBR books I really want to get to, and I haven't, and it's one of my boyfriend's favorite books, and so I thought it would be fun to have it on this list. Okay, skip the foreword. Chapter 1. At the beginning of July, during an extremely hot spell, towards evening, a young man left the closet he rented from tenants in S Lane, walked out to the street, and slowly, as if indecisively, headed for the K Bridge. What you will have seen there is that some of the words are sort of redacted. That's weird and interesting. I don't understand why that happened. It was a little dry, though, I felt. At the beginning of July, during a very hot period, towards the night, a young man left from the closet he rented, so that's kind of funny, and it kind of does make you picture the scene. Okay, we've got this poor guy, it's a hot night, he walked out, and slowly, as if indecisively, so maybe it's not indecisive, but he's walking slowly, he heads for this bridge. Okay, I'm going to put it in informative. Because I'm like, okay, I get where the story's going, but do I care yet? I don't know. Wow. This was so fun. I really hope that you had as much fun as I did, because I just had the greatest time. I love first lines. It was super fun to rank them. This is obviously completely subjective. You might disagree with me, but I'd love to hear if there's one of these lines that you're like, wait, no, I really think that should be an iconic status. Or if you have a favorite book that in your opinion has like an iconic first line, share that down below. Maybe I would think that some of the lines like "in their eyes we're watching God" or "Crime and Punishment," maybe I'd think those were more epic if I've actually read the whole book, which I have not, but that's not the point of the video. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Definitely check out Book of the Month. If you're interested, my link is down below. Use my code. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.